Hello, and welcome to Talk, Therapy, Heal, a dynamic and engaging show that endeavors to shatter the many stigmas surrounding mental health and therapy. Talk, Therapy, Heal is a collective of licensed counselors, therapists, and life coaches unique in areas of specialization, expertise, and experience. Through the art of curated, genuine, compassionate conversation, we get to the deep things. We are so excited you chose to begin your healing journey with us. Tune in to Talk, Therapy, Heal. Hello, and welcome to Talk, Therapy, Heal, where we delve into life's challenges and struggles, and we also give you tips, tools, and skills to have a better life.
Hi, I'm Kenya.
Hey, I'm Rachel.
Hey, I'm Larisha.
Hey, I'm Yanika, known as Nikki.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shintro, also known as Shan. Now, we are #bringing the tough discussions to the table, okay? So #bring it to the table. Y'all remember that hashtag. You're going to hear it more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
So we are still in our healing series, which is titled, Am I Healed? So what we're going to get into on tonight's episode is determine how deep the wound is. And we're going to talk about assessing, okay? So we're going to help to determine how deep the wound is on tonight's episode.
Ooh, so I know we do our definitions.
Yeah.
Do we want to define what a wound is?
But a wound and assess. So somebody have wound, I have assess.
Okay.
Let me pull up wound while you do assess.
All right. So we're going to assess. So first, the thing that we're going to do is evaluate or estimate the nature, ability, or quality of. So evaluate or estimate the nature, ability, or quality of. So we're going to judge something. Okay.
Okay. So a wound is an injury to living tissue caused by a cut, blow, or other impact, typically one in which the skin is cut or broken.
Okay.
So when we think about something being cut or broken, I know it's talking about skin, right? But there can be other things from within that has taken a cut, a blow, or impact.
And we're going to judge how deep
that goes. So is it just skin surface? Or is it underneath tissue damage?
Down to the bone.
Ooh,
right.
To the core.
To the core.
And oftentimes when we think about mental health, and that's why maybe a lot of individuals are more apt to the physical wounds instead of the internal wounds, the wounds that affect us mentally, emotionally, and it can affect us physically. Thinking about, you all keeping it in your mind, what areas are you potentially wounded and or have been wounded if you've been through your healing process. So mental health, often the wounds are not visibly seen, is what I'm trying to say.
So I wanted to bring up, because we're talking about wounds and how deep it is, right? So we have to dig deep,
right,
in order to figure out what the depthness of that wound is. And so it's not just about, how people, when you go to the doctor, you tell them what happened, but it's why it hurts so much as well. So it's not just about what happened to you, but why does it hurt so much? And so I know we're starting off talking about like a cut or something that you might put a Band-Aid or something on, and we're going to get to all of that, y'all. But when you think about a wound or impact to the internal body, asking yourself, why does that hurt me so much?
I think about the who, why, we, where, right?
Yeah.
Who was involved? When did it happen? Where was I? Where is the impact on my body, on my in my heart? What organ did it hit? And where? So where was I? Right? Was I at home? Was I at school? Was I in public? What was I alone? Right? And then so think about the when, where, why, and how. That's how we can evaluate the wound.
When we're talking about that, and we're talking about inner, what organs do you all find that people tend to say they've been injured in the most?
The heart.
The heart and the mind.
Yeah.
Heart and mind.
The
Definitely
gut.
heart.
So it's like it's a blow to the gut.
So heart, mind, and gut.
Backstab.
Oh,
You know, when
definitely
you didn't see
back.
it coming.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I think for me, listening to what Rachel was saying, sometimes I just believe when it comes to people being wounded, it may not always be about the how and the why. It's the who. Mom, why did you do that to me? My best friend, why would you say that? You know, when people that are close to you, that you feel a natural love or affection or friendship, the relationship that you have for, when they do something, people say, oh man, that really cut deep. And sometimes it's because it's the individual of who that was, because somebody can say something to me that I don't deal with on a regular basis. Okay, no big deal. You blow that off. But when it's someone close to you and you weren't expecting that from them, I think that's where you feel it cuts the deepest. You feel like you've been stabbed in the back. And I think when it also comes to a wound, people have to understand this. When a wound naturally happens, the first thing that they always try to tell you military-wise is to apply pressure, especially if you're talking about bleeding. What we have to understand from a counseling perspective, for those of you that come to us, we have to apply pressure to you so that the bleeding stops. And a part of that pressure is to find out what is going on, assessing it deeper, and really getting a lot of information about that wound so that we can try to help you. But if you don't let us apply the right type of pressure, you're going to continue to bleed.
So what I hear you saying and what I've heard kind of come out so far is relationships. So we have to kind of explore, right? We're in exploratory, you know how they do exploratory surgeries and whatnot. When you come in and you're being assessed, it's exploring. So you're exploring the past because this is something that has happened, not is happening,
Right.
or not going to happen because we can't predict the future, right? So it's about what has happened. So I got to explore that past. And while relationships is part of it, right? Because we're talking about relationship with a friend, relationship with a parent figure or whatever, major life events.
Yes.
And childhood can be things that needs to be explored as well. And I know when people come to therapy and we talk about, like you said, applying that pressure to stop the bleeding, they think it's just the surface cut. Like my mama cussed me out or my mama did something to me, but it goes deeper than that. And so you have to explore that past, that history to see again, why does that hurt so much?
That's the layers we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah.
I want to. Okay, so to make it to for some of y'all who are like, oh, okay, I get it, and knowing that I'm a visual person, I want to share something to correlate the physical with what we're talking about mental. Now, like Nikki was saying, oftentimes when individuals come into the counseling room, you like to stay surface because it's safe. But I'm thinking about when you are speaking a medical procedure that we often did when I was in direct patient care. So people would come in with a abscess and it was generally on their tailbone. And so what we had to do is we cleaned the area. So that's what we started to do when we were speaking about the last episode. We're starting to clean the surface. We're starting to gain understanding more about you and what's bringing you in to counseling. But at some point we have to make that incision and we have to open up the wound. So when individuals would come in with abscess, now first I'm going to tell you, that is the worst smell ever in life, okay? But stay with me. Follow me when I say this. So as we would go in, we would have to start removing the infection. So for individuals who are deeply wounded and you have never healed from that and you put Band-Aids on it and you self-soothe and self-medicate it, for a person to do this with an abscess, what happens is the infection will continue to run deep. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So what we have to do in order for the individual to heal is we would have to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I'm telling you, we'd have to bring that infection out and pack the wound a little bit. Let the infection get around there. Bring it out some more. Because if you don't go allow us to help you go deeper to clean out that infection then causes sepsis. It gets into the bloodstream and that affects your whole body. So keep in mind, as we're talking about going deep and the importance of going deep and helping you clean out your wound, is we need access, as we spoke about last episode, to be able to assess. And to truly assess and get to the root, we have to go deeper. We have to go. So keep that in mind, as a lot of individuals come to us and say, they said in the last episode, I don't want to touch that. I don't want to talk about that. Okay, we're not going to push you. We're not going to rush you because it takes time. But understand, if you do not heal and allow us to help you go deep and assess how deep the damage is in you, ultimately, it's not going to just infect you, but it would infect all those that you are connected to. So please keep that in mind. You're protecting your heart. You're trying to stay guarded. I don't want to go there. But what true therapists do is offer a safe space. So it allows us to assess how deep the wound is. So I hope that kind of made sense, with the visual.
I just, I think about the reality is that we have to be willing to have temporary pain again.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what you're saying.
Yep.
That it hurted before, but now you have to be willing to go through a temporary discomfort again, right? To pull out all that layer of gunk and that smelly odor. Like I visually saw you slicing and opening, and I just imagine someone laying on the table. And yes, you gotta allow yourself to be temporarily discomforted for it to go to heal, to get to the root. Right.
Oh, I like that. I like that. You talk about temporary pain and you were talking about surface versus deep wounds, right? So you have to be able to learn the difference between what's a temporary feeling and deeper ongoing issues. So learning that, again, that temporary pain is going to be a lot easier to deal with than that deeper pain if you don't deal with it. Like you said, your body will set up sepsis, and we know what sepsis does to the body. And for y'all that don't know, it's going to take your life.
But you said, what you said, it goes through the bloodstream.
It does.
And I think about generations.
Oh, say that.
My goodness.
See, we all on the same sheet right now. We all on the same sheet.
Because it's affecting not only those around you, but the generations to come.
And that's what, when she said that hit me, because that was going through my mind. I had that in my notes. A lot of time that comes out in the counseling room, especially when the person says, hey, I was hurt. I was wounded by my mother. I don't know why she did this. All right, you know what? I want to do something with you. Let's do a genogram. And that genogram, the generations, you see, well, oh, you said that you did this, but your grandmother did that to your mom, and your great grandmother did it to this, and you see it run through the generations. And I've did this with clients, and I've had to ask them, so at what point is it going to stop? At what point are we going to really address everything that you've said here so that you don't send this down to the next generation, so that you don't let this infection keep running? It's already in the body, if you will. But if it gets into the bloodstream and it pumps through the heart,
it's going to affect
relationships.
But and then that the ending part though is what really gets me. That sepsis sets up, or it runs through that bloodstream and it continues on, and the only thing that the outcome is death.
That's true.
Something dies. Something dies. Either you die, the relationship dies, something dies.
Your growth. Your growth is stunted. And not just physical death, emotional death, mental death. You're stunted.
Right. Wow. And I sit up and think, when individuals do, I would highly suggest get your healing or go after your healing as soon as you can. Because what I often hear in a relational aspect and working with clients is, once they get to the point of true healing, okay? Not I'm on my healing journey. No shade if you are, but true healing, they then begin to think back and say, I had an individual say, I think was married 5 times, and said, and it happened to be a male who said, wow, now I can see the part in where I messed up in those marriages ending. Now I can see. But again, when you think generationally, this genogram is before you. And for some of you all who are not, think family tree. It's like a counselor's version of a family tree. Mm-hmm. And when you look and you find out that you thought the wound was just with you, but it ran deeper. And that's why we need to assess. We need to assess and determine how deep the wound is, because it's not just you. It's your grandfather, it's your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather. And then it goes to, well, that's just how it is in my family. But just because that's just how it is does not mean that it's right.
Right. What I'm hearing you say is identifying patterns. You need to identify the pattern. Look for reoccurring themes in your emotional responses, your behaviors, and those of your family members.
Yes.
If it carries on, that's a pattern. And like you said, at what point are you going to stop it? At what point are you going to allow someone to access your damage and then assess how deep the wound is? And we got more for y'all to come, because we're going to take y'all throughout this healing journey so that you can really get to the point or the place where you said, I addressed myself. I addressed what I was feeling, what I was going through, and I worked it so that I can be healed. There's layers, like we said, to this. It's just not, oh, I acknowledge that I got a problem. Oh, well, I got a problem. Or like we said, we acknowledge that Uncle Willie got a problem. And forgive me if your name Willie.
Sorry, Willie.
Right. But we recognize that Uncle Willie got a problem. Oh, that's just how Uncle Willie is. No.
We cannot accept that. Do you have something before?
Yes.
I
felt it.
Y'all already know. I'm already thinking a lot of stuff. So I'm just thinking about in the natural with the physical body, a wound. So when we're looking at like the layers of damage, I guess you could say, you got to look at the tissue and the surrounding areas as well. And so I say that because the tissue, right, surrounding the wound can become infected, like you were saying, but it could become necrotic.
Death.
The tissues are dying.
It could just, wear away. It could change colors, turn black. But that's kind of how our wounds, you know what I mean, become within us. I have this graphic. Y'all can't see this. But it talks about the types of tissue that happens when a wound occurs. But not only that, it goes a little bit further, and it talks about what happens when the wound oozes.
Okay.
So when a wound oozes, is that a sign of healing? Or if the wound oozes a certain color, is that a sign of healing? All right, so let's bring this back to the counseling room, right? So you go to therapy, you're in the room, you're digging into the layers that you have. You're going to feel fear. You may feel rejection. You may ooze, right? All of the things, all of the emotions, you know what I mean, that you experience from that particular trauma. End state is, what are you going to do with it?
Wow.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do with the wound? What are you going to do with the wound? There's so much more. There's so much more.
I'm sorry.
But I was thinking of like the pain level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's there, it's oozing, but what about the pain level, i.e. your emotion?
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And you know what came to my mind when you were speaking? I literally just wrote it down. Are you a walking infection? Thinking about that when it comes to
we
healing.
deal with infection, y'all.
Can I drop this mic?
Pick the mic up and drop it.
Yes. Are you a walking infection?
And you know what? This is the thing. You can be, listen, the top of your company.
Yes.
You can be the least of your company. You can be entering college, you can be exiting college, you can be a professor, you can be a layman, you can be a pastor, you can be an elder. It doesn't matter your title. You have to check the wounds. And I made a list. So you kind of talked about the list, but I want you to understand what wounds are. So you mentioned some earlier. It's that physical abuse. So think about any age, right? Emotional abuse, where you're being criticized, manipulated, just taken for granted, neglect in any form, right? It can be marital neglect, it can be parental neglect. So not, receiving any type of attention, loss of a loved one. Rather, I don't care if it's, a parent, a sibling, a sudden death, suicide, domestic violence. These are all types of wounds, things that you have experienced in your past, okay? Sexual abuse, we talked about it before, but natural disasters, we just went through COVID. COVID could be a wound for you. Any type of war, combat, military, bullying, any type. Doesn't matter if you were in school, elementary, or if you're experiencing it as an adult and you work at one company, then you change to a different company. That's still a past wound, even in your adult age. And then any type of physical illness that you had to go through, right? A surgery, a disability, a severe disability. Maybe it's not as severe, but any type. I just want to help people think about foster care. That could be a wound from home to home to home, or being in a group home.
Yes, that's good.
Those are types of wounds that we want you to think about. Did I go through this? Does it still hurt? You said, does it still impact me? Looking at the patterns.
I love that you bring that out, because now that they understand the different types, I want to add to that the emotional influence of what it looks like. How does it manifest, or how does it come out? So there's emotional things that happen, and then physical as well. But are you carrying unresolved anger, sadness, fear, abandonment issue, trust, all of these things? This is, and most of the time when we don't trust people, a lot of things manifest as anger, right? A lot of things manifest as anger. So if you are carrying anger and you really don't understand why, then there is a wound that needs to be assessed to see how deep is it, and why does that cause you so much hurt, so much pain? The other physical manifestations are, it shows up as chronic pain. So I always got back problems, or my knee hurts, or I know sometimes people can have injuries because they're doing physical things, but sometimes when you have pains in your body and you can't explain where it's coming from, go check in with yourself and see, where is that pain and why, how did it get there? That's one of the things that I have clients do, is to kind of go within themselves. Like, you're carrying this. Where are you carrying it at? So we talked about the last show where IBS becomes an issue because we carry a lot in our stomach, that gut pain that you mentioned a little earlier. If you are always having, people saying, I feel like I got butterflies in my stomach. That's something else. That's an emotion you're dealing with. There's something else that you're carrying. That's that wound that you want to assess that may be oozing, right? And we don't know if it's healing or if it's setting up an infection. That thing there is something that causes pain. Fatigue is another one. Always tired. You're always tired. You just woke up and you're tired. How?
How?
After being in the bed.
How?
Resting.
You
Physically resting.
right. You just woke up. And then that's the other thing. There's a difference between sleep and rest.
Yes.
Because I can go to sleep and not get rest. Because I'm battling with all of the things still in my mind.
Running.
So that wound is running rampant, right? So I'm still dealing with all of these things even in my sleep. So I wake up tired. And then there's other health issues. I just talked about the IBS thing. There are so many other things that manifest in our body through our emotions, from our emotions. I talked about the last show where when I was stressed and didn't really know that I was stressed, it was manifesting as chronic pain, headaches. I was fatigued. I was tired. I had no energy because there was a wound that I wasn't assessing and I hadn't even accessed.
Wow. You know what else I was thinking when you were speaking, that it can look like? It's so many people that do this than not. You're injured, you're wounded, may be infected, it may be deep, but instead of you choosing to do the work to heal and seek mental health and allow us to help you, see how deep this wound go, you'll say things like, well, that's just how I am. Well, people just gonna have to take me how I am. I've always been like this. And so what you do is you expect everyone else to adapt to your anger, your nasty attitude, your low self-esteem. It's so many things that can present as a wound, but you do not understand. You say it out of your mouth and you expect everyone to tailor to your nastiness, to your infection. And that's not how it works. So then as people start to heal and they're like, I deal with you cordially, but I cannot deal with you any other way, even if I deal with you at all. Because one of the things that we speak about in counseling is, of course, boundaries.
Yeah.
But then having determined, because it was something we were speaking, oh man, our off-camera conversations. Oh, if y'all could be privy, we're going to try to do better. But we get into this whole dialogue, which is what created Talk Therapy Heal in the first place. And it's like, what people will tend to do is they will put the onus on everyone else around them,
except for them,
and not take personal responsibility. Well, I did go through this as a child, and so
what voice?
I'm sorry. But like, that's what you hear.
Aggression.
Yes, and that's how they. And you're like, what? I just said good morning. What you coming like that for?
Pain.
Yes.
That's the ooze.
The ooze.
That's the ooze.
Right.
Pain. That's the
Ooze.
ooze. Yeah.
So when you say, are you healed? And it's oozing, I don't know.
Check your tone.
That's right. And then when somebody, as people saying this, they match your energy, because this is what I've noticed too. Those who are often wounded and they're walking infection is what I'm gonna say, is they try to come for people who are at peace within themselves, who are healed. And I always tell people, be careful, because you do not know someone's past. So then what happens when a person is wounded, especially when it's deep, when that person that you came at you acting stank on a Monday morning, and you think everybody to jump towards you, and or you like to control other people. I've seen this too. People are wounded, got low self-esteem. They don't have a voice at home. They abuse their power in the workplace. And so when that person that you came for come back at you because you don't, I'm going to say this, excuse me, y'all, we are professionals, but you done tapped into their inner gangster and they done came at you, then you play the victim.
Oh,
And then I go, Rachel, this morning when I was talking to Nikki, the people were tripping in the traffic, but see, you never tell your part of your infection, that you tried to infect Nikki. And Nikki got with your behind. I'm sorry, I'm professional. But she got with you. Come on, we got to lay it out on the table for what it is.
Yes.
So those who are healed and been on their healing journey begin to recognize, I can't deal with this person. They are projecting their infection onto me, and I've set boundaries, and I will not allow that to happen. So until you get your little childlike, toddler tantrum having self, come on, somebody, get that in order. Then you can't expect everybody to want to be around you, because you're a walking infection.
So what I'm hearing you say is,
sum it up for the people, because sum it up for the people. I'm
it's
just saying.
identifying deeper, more ingrained emotional scars that persist over time, that shows up in these long-standing feelings of aggression, and it comes out mistrust, insecurity, sense of worthlessness.
Yes.
And it's every day that it comes out,
Yes.
right? So you may not realize that you're oozing. So ask someone, how do I act when I'm under stress? How do I treat you? How do you feel when I'm around you? Just ask somebody else, what do you think of me? And not to get validation,
Right.
but to get information. You may not be aware that you're oozing.
And the best person as a child.
They'll tell you the truth.
Because they're so innocent, they're going to tell you the truth in love.
What's the truth?
Yeah.
And you can't get mad at them. Don't get mad at people when you ask them how you are presenting
Yes.
to others,
Yeah.
and they tell you the truth. I knew I didn't like Larisha anyway. Well, you asked Larisha how you were
And she
presenting
gave you the truth.
in love, because you hear how soft her voice is, right?
It's
Yeah.
I tell it.
Yes, you tell it.
I think sometimes when people are wounded, they're hurt. They don't understand that when they are hurt, sometimes they hurt the people trying to help them.
Yes.
And so I call that, it's almost like an animal trap mentality. If you've ever spent any time in the woods, in the wilderness, whatever, you can come across an animal that has been injured or maybe caught up in a trap. You don't want to do anything to the animal. You just want to set them free. But as you're trying to do that, because they've been hurt, they don't know how to take you because the person that set that trap looks exactly like you. And so while you're trying to help them, they're growling, they're resisting. They don't want that because they don't know what you're going to do. And a lot of times that's what happens when you come into the counseling office. You don't want to open up to really talk about how deep that wound is because you're looking at the counselor as though you may do the same thing to me that person did. And so the key, the key to it is this. You find an animal in the woods, they're in a trap, they're caught up in something. Sometimes what you have to do is blind them.
Yeah.
You have to throw something over them to where they can't see and then get them out of the trap, then uncover it, and then they can go off, and what do? They lick their wound. And so what we have to understand is this. In order to heal, sometimes you have to hurt.
That's it.
And that's part of that counseling process. Sometimes we have to go so deep that you may have to get the tissues. You may have to bawl and cry and get all of that out, but you have to get it out from that hurt so that you can move towards the healing process. And then the other thing is this. Hopefully you get to that point where you heal, but we want you to understand this through this whole process. And this is what I get from what Larisha was saying. You can learn from that wound. You can learn from that scar.
Yeah.
It teaches you a lot. Some of that, once you get on that healing side, you're going to say, when a guy comes up to you and try to talk to you and they say certain words, nah, bro, let me tell you, don't even come like that. Because I was in a situation like that before and I worked hard to get up out that hole and you are not going to put me back in there. Same thing with me. I'll just use me as an example. Not trying to be ugly or anything like that, but I was in a relationship once before that I should have never been in. I learned from that scar. The next time a person came with that same thing, oh, I didn't heard that before. Oh, no, I'm guarding this thing right here. You ain't getting no parts of that. Sometimes that's what we have to do once we are healed. But what we're trying to do as counselors is get you on that part where you're going to take that first step. Yeah. We're going to go through and we need you to give us that access to look at that room. That wound. Then we need to go in and assess how deep it is because now we have to determine if it's this deep, we're going to have to go a little bit deeper to make sure we get everything out because we don't want that reoccurring again.
Yes.
And sometimes what we have to understand, a lot of people do this. I've heard this so many times. You can't put a Band-Aid on the sucking chest wound. You have to allow us to apply the proper techniques and the procedures that we need to do in order to treat that particular wound.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I did something that I'm not gonna call it stupid, but it was. Some friends of mine really wanted me to try out for the football team. And I was a sophomore, getting ready to go into my sophomore year. And I told them, coach is not going to let me play a lot because I'm a small guy. They said, yeah, but you're so fast, nobody can catch you. It didn't even matter. So we said, let's go out in this big field by my yard, by my house, and we're going to play football. So we had cleats on. We're playing football. We come back about an hour later, and I had a basketball goal in my backyard. And they say, hey, well, let's play basketball real quick. I said, okay. Nobody changed their shoes. We were playing in cleats. And so I was dribbling the ball, going towards the goal. A guy stepped in front of me. So I switched to go to my left hand. And what happened is I planted my cleats in the ground. I turned completely around, but my leg was still pointing in that one direction. So I completely messed my left leg up. I pulled a lot of tendons. Long story short, ended up going to the doctor. And literally my leg was bent like this right here. And he said, in order for you to heal, this is going to hurt. Now, I think this is back in 80 something. I shouldn't have said that. I just told my age. But back then, the doctor would say, you know what? Let me ask you a question. Are you a smart guy? I'm like, yeah, I think so. He said, I bet you can't count to 10. I said, I bet I can. He was like, go. I said, 1, 2. And that anesthesia was getting in. And before you know it, he went. And I stood straight up. And then I just went back down again. He had to set it. In order for it to heal. Sometimes being in counseling feels like you're going through that pain all over again, but you have to go through that in order to heal. Because if I wouldn't have did that, my leg to this day would still have grown in that position. I would not be walking straight. So we have to heal. We have to listen to some of the things we may not want to listen to, but in the end, that's that good stuff pouring in, so all the bad stuff can come out.
Yeah. So I'm hearing in all of what you said is to, even in the whole making decisions, recognizing triggers is a big thing. So those triggers being those emotional responses to things. How are you responding? But then I also, when you said like when they come into the counseling room, when you were talking about the animal being caught in the trap and you're trying to help them get out, but they see you as the threat, right? Which is what most clients do when they come into the counseling room. They see us as a threat or see us as if we can do exactly what that other person did. So we have to take down those walls or help them feel comfortable with taking down those walls. But how do you think we as therapists are able to help them remove those walls? Because I mean, we can't throw blinders over an individual, right? We can't cover their eyes because then they will really think we're trying to do something to get over on them. So what are some of the things that you all have done in the counseling room that has helped people understand that, okay, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to make you feel like the other person did, but I'm here really as a support for you?
Yeah, I would say, kind of like I said in the previous episode or two, we got to model the healing. Model the healing. And so what that looks like is if they have boundary, controls or concerns, I should say, then with them, hey, make sure you're here on time. Make sure, if you're not going to be available, you call. And this may sound a little cruel, but have consequences. You know what I mean? Things set up. But not only that, really the primary thing is to show empathy and create that safe space. So that active listening going on, the validation of emotions. But not only that, like telling the truth, you know what I mean, of the matter, being like open and honest about the patterns that the therapist sees, within the client, and also providing hope. Right? Hope, but model the healing.
I like that. I think what you said at the end was key, is to give hope, because even though this is a temporary discomfort, you're going to heal. You're going to overcome this. This will not hinder you for the rest of your life. So that is how we can help them build down the walls. It's just to reinforce and to applaud them that you are keep coming, right? And so I will always say, you're brave. I'm so proud of you. You are courageous, just to validate that, yes, this is uncomfortable, but you're doing the work. So, and being consistent, right? So being reliable where it's professional, right? But being consistent, but really, really praising them along the way.
Yeah. I think for me, it's feeling empathy for that individual, but at the same time, showing care and concern. You're moving at a slow pace to try to help that individual, but at some point in time, you also have to be honest with that person. And what I've did, I've taken pieces of paper and given it to clients and say, hey, write down all the good stuff on this side. Write down all the bad stuff on that side. Okay, so looking at this, oh, wow, there's more good stuff over there than there's bad stuff. What can we do to work together to take this other bad stuff that you have so that it transfers over to the good? Giving them the option to see that they are improving, that there is something that they can move towards. But sometimes, I have to be honest, I've had clients that I had to, as my wife said, I had to get with. It's not nothing bad. It's just letting the individual know, okay, everything that I'm proposing to you, you're turning down. Why is that? What do you suggest?
Right.
How's that working out for you? And for a lot of individuals, it's that aha moment when they're saying, wow, I've tried everything and I don't have it. So this is maybe my final option. And I think in doing that, that builds trust for a lot of individuals. The last thing that I would say is this, is I try to discuss and not debate. Because a lot of clients will come in and they want to get you to that point to see if you're going to act the way that somebody else did, and you can't fall for that bait. You can't take that bait. You want to sit there and just discuss this with this, and if when they start going here, you maintain down here, and then they start wondering, well, why are you so calm? Well, why are you so angry? Now you're getting to the part of that wound. Now we're seeing that somebody has hurt you, wounded you. I'm not that same person. Can we bring that down and get on the same level and then try to move forward? Because I want you to understand, I'm not here to fight against you. I'm here to work with you.
Right.
I think for me, being that most of the clients that I work with is some type of, I'm not going to say some type, is broken trust. So when I'm coming to you, I'm trying to see if I can feel you out and if I trust you. So being in the 15-minute consultation, we're seeing if at the end, after I ask my questions, do you have any questions? Then, okay, would you like to proceed? Giving them the giving them the option. Would you like to proceed forward, to counseling sessions? Well, in the first one, of course, after we go through all the, the legalities, if you will, and what's bringing them in, what I do is I kind of tell them, hey, this is what the sessions can potentially look like. It's going to start off like this. And then as I get to know you deeper, I'm going to always ask you permission. If I see something, I'm going to keep it real with you and say, this is what I see. This is what I heard you saying. I'm going to let you sit in it, so you can realize and recognize, ooh, that's an infectious part of myself that I didn't even see. And so I just kind of let them know this is what it can look like. People are not going to like you. People who used to use you going to get mad at you. Are you ready and prepared for all those things? If not, maybe you are not ready for counseling. And so I let them see what it looked like, what it could potentially look like. So when we get to that point and they're like, let's go back. Remember in the first session I said, and you said, and they're like, right. I did say, okay, let's keep going.
There you go.
Because a lot of people will, like we said, try session the first 2 times to say, I tried it, and then that's it. But then somewhere in that process, which I let them know in the beginning, I will be your accountability partner. If you set boundaries, I'm going to be there. Okay. And then I also have them bring their composition book and take church notes. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
So that way they can go back as I go back and say, I remember in this session on this date, you said, go back to your little church notes. Remember you said, and they're like, I did, Miss Shintra, you right. And so I think when they kind of know what to expect, that's what has worked for me. And that I've learned being in the practice, then them being that caged animal, it's like, oh, before she let me out the cage, we're going to reiterate some things, and they see that I'm only here to help you.
Yeah.
So what have you done?
I'm just gonna tell you.
Okay.
I love what all of you all had to say. A lot of it is a lot of things that I feel like we all do in therapy, which is really good to kind of help that client take that wall down. The one thing I say to clients, and I just be real simple because I'm very straightforward when it comes to my time and their time. And so I always say, if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with me. So we wouldn't be able to move forward.
Right.
Like if you're not going to be honest about what you're feeling, then I can't assess. And if I can't assess, then we're wasting our time. And I'm not into wasting my time. I'm not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing too. I think that clients, I feel like, especially when we're talking about getting to this part, because generally determining the wound and it going deep that's kind of starting to go into the heaviest part.
Yeah.
But just like you say, and I was writing it down, if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with me. I generally remind them too, look, I'm not here to waste your time or your money because I don't like wasting time or money, and then that reminds them like, no, I'm here for a purpose. I kind of have to go, through this. And it's that verbal agreement. It reminds them in the beginning, I did agree. Now, there have been some And I'll be honest, I'm sure you have witnessed this as well in your experience in your practice, that once we get to the hard part, they ghost.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear nothing from them. And so, but this is my thing that I share with people in the beginning. Listen, I ask you, are you committed to this process? I ask you, are you sure that you are ready? So if they do ghost and then they come back, I'm gonna be honest. As a counselor, I then determine whether or not I want to receive them back as a client or not.
So, with that being said, when we know that we do come across people who do ghost, and it's not even just in the counseling room, this is in personal relationships with other people. When you bring something to the table and you talk about that thing that is bothering, that wound that is bothering you, or that you see, people don't want to deal with it. And if they start in it and then they pull back, what do you do? What do you say to somebody that they recognize that the wound exists? They recognize that it goes deep, but I'm not ready. I am not ready. I cannot deal with the level. I can't be re-hurt.
You can only go so far. You know, like I remember having a client, there was something major that they had to do in order to heal, right? And I said, well, let's give it a month. If let's schedule your appointment a month later, right? Because they were coming weekly, but we didn't make any progress because you didn't do that one thing.
Yeah.
And so I haven't seen them because they haven't done that one thing, because you can't move past. You can't skip a step.
Right.
Oh, that is so true.
In healing, you cannot skip a step and say, oh, I'm going to avoid this. No, we have to confront it all.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Or else you wind up at the end and you're still hurt and not healed.
And it's not because of the therapist. It's your action.
Right.
It's about real time. The choices you make matter. Even outside of counseling. I know we're going to talk about, things about contamination and things, but listen, your choices matter in and outside of the therapy room. So if you come in and you're telling us what you're, noticing the patterns of reoccurring behaviors and thoughts, you can't keep doing the same behavior expecting to heal. So, yeah.
So then what do I do? What do I do?
You have to be honest. Say, hey, like, I noticed that you're coming and this is a reoccurring topic, right? Hasn't been any change in your behavior or your responses. And so you have to say, what do you think is best? What do you want to do? Do you want to pause? Do you need more time? Because you have to give them grace and time in this healing journey. And sometimes you will get to a point where you just got to pause a little bit because this hurts a lot.
So what I'm hearing you say is that my healing is up to me. How fast or how slow I go in getting my healing is all up to me.
Yes.
So people, pause. Think about that. Your healing journey, if that's what you want to be on, the pace you go at it is all up to you. If you pause and take off for a year, just know that you have just delayed your healing for a year. It's up to you.
Yeah. And when you think about wounds on the skin, I was reading that sometimes it can take 21 days. It can take 6 months. It can take a year to heal.
Fully. What they tell you if you have a surgery, right? You had a major surgery. They like, it may appear, and we're going to get into that because it may appear to be healed, but that it goes deeper.
Yeah, your skin.
Being tender to the touch.
And that's the thing, I think, understanding, and that's one thing that I know I say with my clients all the time. You have to do the work. I, as your therapist, can't work harder than you. I am working at the same pace. So as we're talking about, your pace towards your healing, you have to do the work. But I do think it's amazing what you all were saying, to be able to communicate, be honest and communicate with your therapist and say, ooh, this hurts a little bit too much. This is, okay, well, let's talk about it. We can then process that part, you know what I'm saying, to help you progress forward. But what tends to happen is either the ghosting or it's a diversion.
Ooh,
And it's, oh, I got this crisis. I got this emergency. And guess what? First of all, I'm your therapist. Break it down, you know. And so then what I love about us as therapists and know that this is going to happen. Okay, look, and I'm not going to minimize. I'm being real kind of comical when I say this piece, but I only say that because of the culture that we're in. Okay, we'll talk about your little problem, but we're going to redirect you right back to what we were working on.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. So if your plan is, okay, I'm going to do this, but when I get to the tough part, I'm going to come up with a crisis or an emergency. The professionals that we are will honor your crisis, but we're going to bring it right on back.
We'll redirect.
That part.
I think
be
people
direct.
absolutely
Be
Yeah.
direct.
Right.
Is this an avoidance or is this an aversion?
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? From what's really going on?
That truth, being
Yeah.
putting that truth
Yeah.
in there.
Yes.
I like that.
and getting them to understand that the longer you go, the harder this may be. And then the last thing is, you never see a coach on the field playing. And that's what we are. We are therapists. We're coaching you through something. But when it comes game time, you've got to be the one to play. You never see the coach go, hey, timeout, ref, put me in because my linebacker ain't doing what he's supposed to do. No. Only thing he can say is, I need to replace you. Go in there and but you can't do that. You can't replace that. You're the one that needs the healing. You have to play the game.
Or
You
else
got to be the
game
quarterback.
Yep.
Wow.
The game stops.
That's the game.
That's
stop.
true.
Mm-mm.
And this is
Game
so good.
time.
I know.
Yes.
Game time in your healing.
It's game time.
I got a question.
Yes,
Mhm.
ma'am.
Y'all know I'm always thinking. That's why I'm so quiet. So I'm just I want y'all to look at it from the client's perspective and the therapist's perspective. So what do you do when a client comes in crisis? So remember, we're talking about the assessment phase. So they come in and they're in crisis. What do you do? Where do you go? How do you start with them?
I can start off. For me, especially if you're on 10, I'm going to ground you first. We're going to ground. And what I mean by grounding, for those who don't know, who haven't been watching our shows, grounding is getting you to a calm, relaxed state so that you can process clearly what is going on up here. And so I just told Shan about this in supervision about taking a client through this 8-lane chaotic state in their mind, all happening with cars just going, and they can't figure out what to do or what's going on. They can't articulate what they're feeling because there's so many different cars going in so many different directions. Nothing is together. There's no 4 lanes going this way and 4 lanes coming this way. They're crisscrossing and you trying not to get hit. It's just everything is everywhere and chaotic. The one thing that I did was just had her to slow the cars down. We're not even trying to identify what's going on. We're not trying to determine what it is that happened or any of that. All I want you to do is slow it down. So we've spent about 25 minutes slowing the cars down through grounding techniques, through relaxation techniques, through her being able to just me asking questions to kind of get things going, but giving time too. So I wasn't rushing through it. If you need time, you need time. And so as I'm talking, and I'm talking in a very calm, soft voice. So again, we talked about matching energies, right? If they feel anxious, I can't be anxious. So if they're in crisis, I can't be in crisis. I gotta be calm. So the entire time I'm relaxing myself while I'm talking them through a whole relaxation technique to get them down. And I would check in periodically. How are the cars? Are they slowing down? And then I told them, well, picture it as it's traffic and you see red brake lights. What does red brake lights mean to you? That people are slowing down. I said, that's what I want you to do with your thoughts. Just start bringing them down to a slow. I ain't even saying stop them. I just said slow them down because right now they're all over the place. I have done that with multiple clients. And I have been able to break through and get down to what the real issue was. And it was not about the crisis was that so many different things were going on in their head at once, but it was only one or two things that was really the main issue.
Right.
They wouldn't have never been able to figure that out if the cars remained at the speed that they were.
That's good. That's good. I know for me, I get a lot of individuals that come in the line of work that I do, and they're always in crisis. One particular case, I had a person come in, and once they told me what was going on, they really cried a lot, and I understood. And so I showed that sympathy for them. I gave them that time, and the individual kept apologizing. I know I need to get this out, but I'm so sorry. I'm just so emotional, ma'am. I can understand the emotional state that you're in. And right now, I just need you to sit in that for a moment. And when you're ready, we'll proceed. And it's not rushing that individual. It's giving them that time that they need. Now, from a different perspective, I'll get some individuals that come in, and it may be from a point of suicide. And in a lot of those cases, this is what I found out. It's not about what you're going to do. It's not even about what you're going to say. It's how well you listen.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're the only person that is giving them that time to get the wound and how they're feeling about that wound out. And now the person may say, oh, well, this person really listened to me. They really do understand. Maybe I can move forward with that individual. And as counselors, we all know the technique. So that must be really hard for you. But I appreciate you sharing that, because that must have really been hard it's little things like that. Or what I'm hearing you say, that those are the things that kind of reinforce the counseling process to let individuals know I'm in a safe place. So sometimes when these people are in crisis, you just got to get them in a safe place.
So I asked that question, and I'll be just real quick, because sometimes people come in, and earlier you shared that we can't skip a step in the healing process. So sometimes people come in crisis, and we can't get to the assessment piece of it. And so if we skip that assessment piece,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? I think later on it'll have a greater impact because we won't really see the whole thing in the wound.
Absolutely. That's
To
good.
be able to get at the wound.
That's good.
Which is, oh my God, why it's so key. And I hear you saying that same thing, slow it down. We got to slow it down. We can't move fast in it. We have to slow it down. Oh my God.
This goes back to episode number 2, I believe, where we talked about how you have to have self-regulation, right? To access and to assess, you have to regulate your body. You have to regulate your breathing. And, in counseling, you can watch. You can literally see someone's chest, right? You can see everything. And I'll just watch it, and I say, okay, hey, let's just breathe. Let's just take a moment and deep breathe.
There you go.
You have to gain that ground again. But I also notice sometimes letting them get it all out. Just letting them rant. Okay, so now let's breathe. Right? So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God, y'all.
Regulation is important.
This has been so good, and I feel like we can keep going.
We could. Definitely could.
We can keep going on assessing assessments, because we know sometimes assessments can take a long time. I know when we go to the doctor, sometimes it's kind of like a rush thing, but assessments for therapy is not rushed, right? I can assess you over 3 to 4 sessions. I'm assessing. I am allowing you to get out what you feel like is bothering you. What's that hurt? What's that pain? What is it about? And that takes time, especially when you come in guarded, or especially when you come in a crisis. Because most people, let's be honest, they only go to therapy when they're in a crisis. Right? So we want to, I don't know if we have a couple of seconds, y'all. If we could just give something that we want to leave the people with that would help them in the assessment part of their healing journey, what would you say to them?
I would say quit running away and run towards somebody. A lot of people try to run away from their problems, run away from the hurt, instead of going to the people that can help you assess that situation, assess that wound, and help you get better.
I would say take your time and have realistic expectation about the healing process.
I would say just be open to identify the threatening factors or to identify the patterns.
I think for me, I would say allow us to walk in the mud with you. If it goes deep, know that we are right there beside you and we will not abandon you, but realizing that you have to do the work. We can only go as deep as you allow us to go.
And I'm going to end with accept that it's okay to have the feelings that you've been having and that they are a part of your healing journey. So we thank you all so much for joining us here tonight on Talk.Therapy.Heal. Again, like always, I always say, we hope that something we said impacted you in a way that penetrates your mind, that causes you to want change in your life. That is our hope for you. This is why we allow you all to come in on our private conversations that we have with each other on a regular basis about mental health. So thank you again. Don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe, y'all, and hit that notification bell because we got some stuff, y'all. We bring things to the table we want y'all to hear, right? So don't forget to do those things for us, and we pray that you all be blessed. Thank you for joining us at Talk Therapy Heal.
Bye.
Bye.